Hack From Home 2021 event.
And I'm William Pan, another event director from Hack From Home 2021. Welcome to Health Hacks, our virtual healthcare innovation event.
We are so excited for each and every one of you to be here during this pandemic. It's not an easy time, but we are so proud of each and every one of you for spending your weekend tackling the world's greatest medical challenges right now. We have participants from around the globe attending our event from India, Thailand, Pakistan, China, Philippines, Canada, Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, Australia, and Cameroon. And it is amazing that we can have many global perspectives working together towards meaningful innovation.
So what is Hack From Home? Hack From Home is a virtual healthcare innovation event aimed at creating practical and interdisciplinary solutions to the greatest medical challenges of our times. We hope that by the end, each and every one of you will leave the event believing that you and your team can make the difference the next day, month, or year with a technological and innovative solution that you come up with today. But most importantly, we really think that this is the place where the greatest minds meet to change the world.
Our event is not strictly a hackathon. In fact, you don't need any coding experience to participate or think of new ideas. Whether you have a live app demo, design prototype, or an idea drawn out by the end of the event, your project has the potential to make a great impact on lives around the world.
We have 3 tracks from Hack From Home: pandemic prevention, access to healthcare, and mental health. Each track deals with unique questions that will challenge you to generate new ways of thinking about the status quo. Whichever track you're in, we are so excited to see how you tackle these different problems.
Of course, we wouldn't be here without our amazing sponsors who allowed us to provide over $15,000 cash value in prizes and awards. We'd like to especially thank our premium sponsors, Clerky, Sketch, ThinkBoard, Wolfram Alpha, .xyz, Framer, Axure, DailyBot, Glimpse, and Art of Problem Solving for making this event possible.
We would also like to thank all the people who signed up as mentors and judges. They come from a diverse group from Stanford, Columbia, Sloan Kettering, University of Texas, USC, and others. This event would not have been possible without their time and effort, so please ask for their help throughout their event by DMing mentors on the Slack, and they will respond as soon as they can. And to finally kick off our event, we are proud to introduce Darren Cooke as one of our keynote speakers.
Darren Cooke is the Executive Director of Bioentrepreneurship Center, or BEC, at UC Berkeley. Prior to leading the BEC, he helped design and then chaired the BioTrack at Berkeley Skydeck. Darren also taught entrepreneurship for the Hask School of Business Regional I-Corps program, the UC Launch Startup Accelerator, the National Institute of Health's and National Science Foundation's I-Corps programs, and NSF's Convergence Accelerator. As an attorney, he led the IP legal team for the Life Science Tools Group of BioRad Laboratories and was a life science patent litigator at Covington and Burling. Before law school, Darren was a mechanical engineer developing cochlear implants at UCSF. So now please give him a warm welcome.
All right, folks. Thank you so much, William and Emily. Pleasure to be here. So I think I need to, somebody needs to stop sharing so I can share my screen. Yep. Go. All right. Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's my pleasure to be here. As Emily just mentioned, I'm Darren Cooke. I'm currently the Executive Director of the Bioentrepreneurship Center at UC Berkeley. And if you're Googling that right now, you won't find anything because we're building it at the moment. I expect actually a formal announcement next week. But I'm not here to tell you about that. I'm here to tell you about the importance of building something that's irresistible. And so as Emily mentioned, I am an instructor for the National Science Foundation's I-Corps program, for the NIH's I-Corps program. This is a program where teams come together using what's called a lean launchpad curriculum to do customer discovery. And what that is people get out of the building, whether actually or virtually, and talk to teams, get out of the building and talk to people that they don't know. Over the course of 7 weeks in the NSF program, we require these teams to talk to 100 people that they don't know. And so that's a pretty big lift. but keep that in mind because I'm going to come back to it. As Emily mentioned, I'm also the past chair of the biotrack at Berkeley Skydeck. So Berkeley Skydeck is UC Berkeley's startup accelerator. We take teams from around the world to join us in Berkeley, back when we were able to bring people to Berkeley. Accepting 20 teams per 6-month cohort. Each of the 20 teams gets a $100,000 investment, intensive advisory support, educational programming, focused investor introductions, and then a huge demo day with more than 800 investors in attendance at the end. As mentioned, I chair and have chaired the biotrack for the last 7 cohorts for the last 3.5 years. About 4 of the 20 teams are bio teams. And we're super proud of the companies that have come through the program. So the metrics that matter to us are all positive. And the one that we like to focus on most is because one of the features of the program is to get companies ready to raise a significant investment round upon conclusion of the program. Almost 2/3 of them go on to raise that round. The number that's not on this slide, though, which we're also proud of and sort of intrigued by, is the number of companies that apply to the Skydeck program for each of the 6-month cohorts. Last cohort, we got 1,800 applicants for the 20 spots. And here is the last batch. And if you're looking quickly and doing math in your head and realizing, wait, there's only 12 companies on the slide, you're correct. So the last cohort was a little bit smaller, mostly because of the pandemic. So from 1,800 applicants, we picked these 12. And so why was that? What was it about these 12 that made us move forward and accept them into the program and literally invest money in them? What about these? The companies that are alumni companies that have gone on to be, in some cases, amazingly successful. What is it about these companies that we picked early on and that have continued to succeed and get investment interest and to find more customers? There's something in common with all of these, is that they're building something that's irresistible to the customer. And so I want to challenge you all over the course of the next 48 hours, and crucially over the next 48 days, to consider whether and how you can build something that's irresistible to the customer. And I'll point out at this point that this does not apply just to what you're seeing on the screen here, for-profit companies. This applies to nonprofits and NGOs and anyone that's delivering a solution to somebody that needs it. It has to be irresistible. Otherwise, what's the opposite? It's resistible. And if it is resistible, customers will resist it. So I want to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes of how we evaluate companies when they're applying to a program like Skydeck, when they're applying for investment support from other investors, with what I call a generic investor pitch. And I'll pause here to note that this is not a hackathon pitch. I'm about to give you an outline for what I like to see in a classic investor pitch. However, this is not the outline that you should necessarily be following for tomorrow. There will be a great presentation this afternoon from hackathon winners in the past who will give you lots of tips and pointers and ideas about how to do that well. But this is what I call your pitch to investors. However, you may pause and say at this point, like, wait, we're not really pitching investors. We're creating a company on grant money, or we're looking for government support, or there's going to be philanthropic support. Well, guess what? The following pitch doesn't apply just to investors. It actually applies to anybody from whom you're looking for support. So it could be potential collaborators. It could be future employees that you want to hire in the future. It could be, and crucially, yourself, right? Because if you can't prove to yourself that you're building something that is investable, meaning investable by an investor looking to put in money, then it's probably it's not worth investing your time to pursue it. So keep that in mind over the course of the next 10 concepts that I'm about to go through when thinking about how you can pitch this not just to investors, but to anyone else in your stakeholder ecosystem who cares about supporting you. And so as mentioned, I've boiled this down to 10 easy steps. In my mind, at least when I'm listening to a pitch for investment, I'm thinking, sort of checking off if teams have hit each of these steps. The first 5 of the 10 are the makers and the breakers of the deal. I'll mention this again, but if you can't prove the first 5, the second 5 don't matter. All right, so number 1, start with the problem. Whatever you're doing, no matter how excited you are about your team or your tech, et cetera, start with the problem. And I'll tell you that these slides came about after an experience I had a couple of years ago when I was running a seed stage investment group for med device and digital health, where my group was going to an event at a law firm where we had 5 spots available to talk to teams, talk to companies, talk to startups. And so the startups would indicate their interest in meeting with my group, well, actually meeting with me ahead of time. The crazy thing is, for 5 spots, we got 100 companies that wanted to meet with us. So suddenly I'm looking at 100, literally 100 pitch decks where I have to choose the 5 that I will meet with. And so after a long day of looking at 100 pitch decks, I went back and reflected. I'm like, what is it about the 5 that I selected that was in common, that made it compelling enough that made me think, yes, I would like to learn more about this company? And so this is where these 10 concepts came from. But how many of the 100 that I looked at did not start with the problem? Probably about half. Probably about half of them started with their amazing team or their patent portfolio, or more often than not, the technology that they were super proud of. But no, go back, even if it's screamingly obvious, start with what you're tackling. And second, that the problem that you're solving is huge. And however you can put numbers on this, you put numbers on it. So number of people, number of countries, number of dollars lost or made, et cetera, whatever it is, we want to know that this is a big one. And then third, quite obviously, and it's funny that this is not, you've literally solved it, meaning that whatever you've come up with solves the huge problem. It's fixed because of you. So on this, we want to be not just told that you've solved it, but shown. You need to prove it to us. And so the metric here, the test I think here is that whatever you're using to prove to, say, a colleague, somebody who's a peer of yours, if you can prove it to them that you've solved it, that's the level of detail and data that we want to see as well. And 4, it's exceptional, meaning that the problem that you've solved, the huge problem that you've actually solved, your solution is so good, it's 10 times better than anything else. It's 10 times better than other startups. It's 10 times better than what's in current R&D labs. This is 10 times better than anything that's even the status quo, right? And again, we want to be convinced of this. Investors are willing to be convinced, but we have to be convinced. And so the test I have here is the skeptical colleague test. Everybody has a frenemy or somebody who's like, you kind of like them and they kind of like you, but guess what? They actually probably don't really want you to succeed. If you can convince her that your solution is exceptional, that's what we want to see as well. Right, and then 5, the trickiest one, and this is where we come back to irresistibility. That exceptional solution to the huge problem is irresistible to somebody who will buy it from you at a profit. So let's think about this graphically. So on this chart, whether we know it expressly or not, we investors, we your future collaborators, we your future employees are trying to figure out where your company fits on this chart. And what your control and what you're going to be doing and exploring over the course of this weekend is how great is your solution, right? Again, you want it to be exceptional. This is what is coming out of your lab, coming out of your head, coming out of your code, whatever it is that you're proposing. What you don't control is the tricky part. This is the scope, the size of your customer's problem. And looping back, I told you I would come back to it. This is what our iCore teams are doing when they're doing their 100 customer discovery interviews outside of the building. They're trying to assess what is the scope of your customer's problem. And so we investors want to be convinced of that you found a huge problem, but you as a person need to be convinced that you found a huge problem, because the only place, and I've seen so many hundreds of companies go through this process, the only place where you as a startup will succeed is if you're in the green box. And so I think it's pretty easy to say, yeah, okay, well, you know what, if we have a bad solution to a minor problem, we're not going to do it. Or if you say, yeah, we have an okay solution to a big problem, but you know, who's going to do that? It's kind of nice to have. Most startup founders will say, yeah, we should be looking for something else. The trickiest part and the real pit that startup founders fall into that is hard as anything to dig out of is, say you have a great solution to a big problem. Boy, that's intriguing as anything, right? Who wouldn't want a great solution to a big problem? But guess what? If it's just intriguing, that's all it is. And so you maybe get some interest, you may get some customers, you may get some investment, but it's hard as anything. And the part that's really heartbreaking, because I've seen dozens of founders and startup CEOs go through this, is that they blame themselves, right? They're saying, if only I was better at pitching, or if only my slides looked better, or if only I could convince the customer that their problem is bigger than it actually is, which is a trap you don't want to fall into, we would take off like a rocket. But they don't. And they can be in this position for years before they realize that it may not work. So right, if you found something that's irresistible, the exceptional solution to the huge problem, the next step, of course, is making sure that the customer has the resources to buy it, right? And this is, again, something that you can find through customer discovery, getting out of the building, talking to people, truly understanding not only their needs, wants, desires, must-haves, but also what resources they have. And so once you have that, you have product market fit. So from that, I'll tell you, this is the way we looked at the 1,800 companies in the last cohort and picked the 12. Back to the 10 easy steps. Like I said, if you can't prove the first 5, we don't care about the next 5. You can pitch them, but at this point we'll be tuned out. The value changers. The next 5 will change the value of the deal to us, whether it means like how much we're willing to value the company for investment, or whether we're ranking them for admission to a program, et cetera. You got a great team. Your revenues are going to be amazing. IP gives you a competitive advantage. And IP, I mean, not just patents. Patents don't apply to every company, but you have something that's special. And it could be the team. It could be the data. It could be something that's unique about you that gives you a competitive advantage over others who are working on something similar. Because if you truly do have a huge problem, other people will be working on something similar. Freedom to operate, FTO is the acronym for that, meaning that you're not hung up on other people's IP, whether it's patents or trade secrets, et cetera. The investment that you're asking for, and this is truly, these last 2 slides are real for investors. The investment that you're asking for from investors will take you somewhere important. That is, you will reach a milestone with the investment that will be super intriguing to another investor in the future. They'll take you to a value inflection point, and that there's a history of exits in your space, meaning that other people have done something similar in the past where they've made money for investors. Because remember, investors are in the business of making money. They're in the business of getting a return for their limited partners. And so even if it's obvious as anything and people know about exits in the space, this is the point that we want to be reminded. All right, so this is a review. I believe these slides will be provided to you. So if you're curious to go back and look at this, this is from your website, of course, right? The challenge over the next 48 hours or the next 2 days, how will you change the world? Right, interesting. I challenge you to figure out the exceptional solution to the problem over the next 2 days. Over the next 2 weeks, 2 months, I challenge you to figure out, truly understand the customer's needs, wants, problems, issues, must-haves, to put that together with your exceptional solution that you'll be building over the weekend to build something truly irresistible to the customer. All right, and that applies to all 3 tracks. Good luck, everybody. And with that, I am, if anyone is interested in following up, feel free to email me at this address, and that will be it.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Cooke, for your inspiring talk. And we hope each and every one of you, our participants, took something away from Darren Cooke's experiences.
And we would now like to introduce our final keynote speaker, Dr. Brooke Ellison.
Dr. Brooke Ellison is an associate professor and interim program director of the PhD program in Health and Rehabilitation Sciences at Stony Brook University. When Dr. Ellison was 11 years old, she was struck by a car on her way home from school, leaving her a quadriplegic. Despite a life-altering experience, she went on to earn an undergraduate degree in cognitive science and a master's degree in public policy from Harvard University. She then earned her PhD in sociology from Stony Brook University. Her experiences since her accident have shaped her research focuses in medical ethics and health policy, specifically disability-related bioethics and making healthcare accessible to those most in need. Her second book, Look Both Ways, coming in summer 2021, will document the events of her life and discuss the wisdom and significant life lessons she has picked up from her experiences. Please welcome Dr. Brooke Ellison.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. And I'd also like to thank Miss Jolene Huey, who invited me to speak here today. So Jolene was a student of mine last year, actually, when she was a participant in the summer enrichment science program held out here on the East Coast of in New York. And this program, as it was typically taught in years past, brought all different students together in one spot here on the Stony Brook University campus, assembling like-minded students from all over the country to tackle challenging scientific questions together in the lab. But as I'm sure you don't need to be reminded, last summer, these kinds of group endeavors were just not possible. And we had to think of ways to do things differently. We had to understand the problem we were facing and then find a way to address it so that we could move forward with the important work that we needed to do. And we did it. We were able to give students who would typically be conducting research here together in the lab the opportunity to instead look at some of the ethical and societal questions that science can either raise or address. And in many ways, this is really the heart of science and innovation, isn't it? We encounter a challenge and we figure out a way to solve it. And that same passion, the vision to tackle a challenge and do something you had never done before, is what's bringing all of you here together today. And I commend you all for that. So as you heard, my name is Brooke Ellison, and I'm a faculty member here at Stony Brook University, where I teach, among other things, the ethics and applied ethics of science. And I entered this field through my focus on stem cell research and the ways that regenerative medicine might revolutionize the way we approach some of the most seemingly intractable medical challenges that we face, particularly to unlock the mystery of genetic diseases and disabilities. And I entered this field because of my own passion for it and my desire to help create as smooth a path for scientists as I possibly could as they pursued the hard work finding treatments for previously untreatable diseases and disability. So while everybody should hear about these issues, the root of my passion for this was an accident that I underwent over 30 years ago when I was just 11 years old. While walking home from my first day of 7th grade, I was quite devastatingly hit by a car, and the damage done to my body was immense. I cracked my skull open, I bit off half of my tongue, I damaged each of my 4 limbs in some way, and I was in cardiac and pulmonary arrest when medical responders arrived at the scene of my accident. And it seemed quite likely that I would not survive. In fact, at the time of my accident, my family was told just that. that I would not survive, and that if I did, I would have no cognitive ability whatsoever. But I'm fortunate now to be able to say that that outcome that so many feared didn't come to pass. And the severity of my injuries, while quite severe indeed, have mostly now been relegated to a spinal cord injury I sustained in my cervical spine. So for 30 years, I've lived with quadriplegia, a disabled woman whose life, once thought to be over, or nearly so, has been rich with opportunity, excitement, and possibility, unlike much of what I would have ever imagined for myself. And there are many people and many entities to whom I can direct gratitude for this outcome. But science, innovation, and technology is quite high on this list. In many ways, it's been science, innovation, and the brilliance of the human mind that's kept me inspired and motivated. It's been through science and innovation that a life once thought to be completely incapacitated has allowed me to invest in my education, taking me to the halls of Harvard, where I did my undergraduate and master's work. It's been through science and innovation that I traced the streets of Long Island, knocking on doors as a political candidate. It's been through science and innovation that I write my speeches and books and share my ideas with the world. It's been through science and innovation that I've been able to lead an enormously rich life, with scientific advancement and innovative development serving as the bridge between the life that many people had feared I would lead and the life I live today. So I now do research and writing, not only on the ethical questions that science raises, but also the ethical, social, and sustainability questions that science might help to solve if it's framed in the proper way. And one of the areas that I've been able to devote significant amounts of time and attention to has been the ways in which technology can be used as a medium to address societal disparities, and how it can be the very mechanism by which we alleviate suffering and maximize quality of life. So think about things like the mobile cancer screening units to get underserved communities the kind of care that they need. Think about computer access technology to give people with disabilities a greater chance to engage with the world. Think about water filtration systems that can provide clean and safe drinking water to communities that might not otherwise have it. This is the power of science and innovation. This is the way we change people's lives through it. This is an enormous responsibility, but it's also a moral imperative. So technology has long been the vehicle by which society can bridge the divide between the world as we know it and the world we hope it to be. And never has this been so evident than it has been this past year, where the world as we knew it had to be completely rethought and renegotiated. While technology and science have always been the driver, the very mechanism by which our world and societies have grown, it's never been more so than during this pandemic, when we had to rely on technology to span gaps that we never really fully understood existed. Gaps in our healthcare system, gaps in our education system, gaps in our communications, gaps in our infrastructure. These are our societal struggles on which we can no longer turn our backs, not for financial reasons, nor for humanitarian reasons. These are the challenges that demand solving, that will not wait for a more convenient opportunity to be solved and put all of our lives at peril until they are. So over the course of the next 2 days, you'll be tackling some of the most pressing challenges in healthcare today. How to prevent the devastation of pandemics like the one we've just undergone. How to meet the mental health challenges that the world faces right now and will continue to face, especially heading out of this time of extreme challenge, and to meet these needs and challenges in a way that inspires sensitivity and compassion, and how we can ensure that everyone, irrespective of their background, their ability, where they live or how many dollars or they have in their bank accounts can access healthcare in a way that's fair and just. These are the questions that the world needs to answer. These are the very challenges that the world needs to solve. These are the things that we need to tackle in order to bring about a future that's better, stronger, more sustainable, and more just than anything we'd imagined before. To answer these questions requires effort and time and patience and innovation. It requires us to think bigger, to think bolder, to think differently than perhaps we ever have before. But I know that you can. And I've seen the power of innovation in science and technology. I've seen how it changes lives, and I've seen how ideas grow in unexpected ways, but always starting from an awareness that there are needs to be filled and lives to be changed. And keep that vision in mind as you work this weekend. Keep the promise of opportunity and possibility front and center as you build, as you create, as you grow. And there's no greater inspiration than that. So for 30 years, whether it's been in the form of adaptive technology, health technology, or some other form of technology, technology and innovation have been the primary means by which I've been able to make a difference in the world. From the first days immediately following my accident, I had to rely on innovation and technology to communicate with the world around me. It was through innovation and the brilliant minds behind it that I could migrate from my hospital bed to a wheelchair, and then to learn to drive a wheelchair independently, that I could complete my schoolwork independently, that I could even breathe independently. But these were just the first steps into a world that continues to evolve, and a future that still needs to be built and created by innovators to come, by people like all of you. So all of you have my most sincere gratitude for the work that you're embarking on and the future that you're going to help to create. I know that the areas you're going to be tackling are of immense importance, so demanding of our immediate attention, and I know that you'll be the ones who can tackle them. So be brave, be bold, be creative, and know that you're changing people's lives for the better in the process. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the next 2 days.
Thank you, Dr. Ellison, for such an insightful and powerful story. And then please join me in giving a final round of applause for our two amazing keynote speakers. So moving on, so for our event, every link will be, so every link for the Zoom meetings, Google Forms, and guides will be on our participant portal. To access them, simply just go on our website, healthhacks.tech, and find the tab Participant Portal. The password for access should be hackfromhome 2021, all lowercase and no spaces. All of this information is also in our Participant Hacker Guide, which we encourage you to take a look at. There, you will also find a ton of free resources our sponsors have generously provided to you, all as participants of Hack from Home. Please do not share this password or anything on our participant handbook to any non-participants of this event. And also, if you haven't joined our Slack workspace yet, you can find the link in the description of the live stream and on the participant portal. Live announcements, updates, and project help from mentors will take place via Slack, so please hop on there.
So let's get on with a brief overview of our event. In 15 minutes at 9 a.m. PDT, or Pacific Daylight Time, we'll have a pitching session where you can exchange ideas with fellow participants to form teams and gain a better understanding of the problem you would like to address. If you already have a team, you can start working on your projects at 9 a.m. PDT.
Please remember that all times are posted in Pacific Daylight Time. So by 1 p.m. PDT, we will need all teams to register on a Google form for final team registration, so we can account for your project. We will have workshops throughout the day from 1 to 3 p.m. and at 6 p.m., ranging from Entrepreneurship by Hanson Grant, CEO of ThinkBoard, to Flow State and a demo of the Centered app by Derek Barris. We will also have a workshop on clinical trials and data management by Dr. Susan Imwe, a project manager at the City of Hope. Our last workshop will be about how to pitch by some of our fellow health hacks directors, so please keep an eye out for that.
Sounds good. In addition, there will be office hours open tonight reserved for teams in North and South America from 7 to 10 p.m. PDT for you to ask questions to directors. International office hours will occur on June 20th from 1 to 3 a.m. PDT. Additionally, tomorrow we will have practice pitching sessions starting from 9 a.m. PDT. This will be your chance for you and your team to pitch to the directors to receive feedback on your project, if you're ready by then.
Our final deadline when hacking ends will be tomorrow at 2 p.m. PDT on DevPost. Don't miss it because this is a hard deadline, as all judging and submission guidelines are linked on the participant portal on our website and will be pushed out on Slack as well. And our winning teams will have a wide range of prizes and awards generously powered by some of our amazing sponsors.
For fifth place, the team will be awarded Wolfram software and access to .xyz free domains. Our fourth place team will be awarded with a Glimpse subscription in addition to Wolfram software and .xyz domains.
For third place, each member of the winning team will be going home with a brand new ThinkBoard, the Wolfram Award, a daily bot subscription, and free .xyz domains. Our second place team will be awarded with a $100 cash prize, a 1-year Framer prototyping subscription, 4 centered t-shirts, a daily bot subscription, and access to free .xyz domains.
Our first place winner will be going home with a $250 cash prize, centered swag, 4 sketch licenses, a daily bot subscription, access to free .xyz domains, Axure prototyping subscriptions, and a lifetime company package with Clerky, which helps startups and businesses get off the ground with help on legal paperwork.
And now we'll be going to our pitching sessions, where you can exchange ideas and meet new people to form teams. On Slack, a Zoom link will be sent out on the announcements channel, so please join that at 9 a.m. PDT. If you have already formed a team, you are not required to attend this, so go ahead and start hacking.
Keep an eye out on Slack for all director communication during the event, and happy hacking.